This weekend is UFC 289. I'm going to start my predictions with the feature fight of the prelims. So first of all, Nasruddin will face off with Chris Curtis in the middleweight division. Imanov has a career record of 12-4 and is currently ranked 12th in the middleweight division. And in his last 3 fights, he beat Edmund Shabazian by second round TKO. Then he beat Joaquin Buckley by unanimous decision. And in his last fight, he lost to Sean Strickland by unanimous decision. As for Chris Curtis, he has a career record of 30-10. And he is currently the 14th ranked fighter in the middleweight division. In his last 3 fights, Chris Curtis, he lost to Jack Hermanson by unanimous decision. Then Curtis also beat Joaquin Buckley. Curtis won that fight by second round knockout. And in his last fight, Curtis lost a very exciting fight to Kelvin Gastelum by unanimous decision, which I personally thought that fight was a lot closer than most people. Chris Curtis is shorter for the division, but being a great boxer with a good chin, he is able to get into his range. And Imanov will have a 5-inch height advantage in this fight to show the size differential that Chris Curtis can have in the middleweight division. Now, I think that this will be a really fun fight to watch, and Imanov will win by decision. The first fight of the main card is going to be Marc-Andre Barriault versus Eric Anders. Now, in my opinion, they probably should have switched the Curtis and Imanov fight with this fight, as the Curtis-Imanov fight is more deserving of a main card. So Barriault has a career record of 15-6 with 1 no contest. And in his last 3 fights, he beat Jordan Wright by first round submission. He lost to Anthony Hernandez by third round submission. And he beat Julian Marquez by second round TKO. And Eric Anders has a pretty similar record. He is 15-7 with 1 no contest. In his last 3 fights, he lost to Andre Munoz by first round submission. Then he lost to Jung Young Park by split decision. Then he beat Kyle Dukas by second round TKO. I'm gonna choose Barriault by second round knockout. The next fight is a featherweight fight between Dan Ige and Nate Landwehr. Dan Ige has a career 16-6 record and is currently the 12th ranked featherweight. In his last 3 fights, he lost to Josh Emmett by unanimous decision. He lost to Musar Evlov by unanimous decision. And in his last fight, he beat Damon Jackson by second round knockout. And in his career, Dan Ige has struggled against the top tier of the featherweight class. Nate Landwehr has a career record of 17-4. And in his last 3 fights, he beat Ludwig Klein by third round submission. He beat David Onama by majority decision. Then in his last fight, he beat Austin Lingo by second round submission. And is currently on a 3-game winning streak. So I think this is a close fight, but because Nate Landwehr is streaking right now, so I will pick Landwehr by decision. The next fight is Matt Malott versus Adam Fugit? I'm just going to go with Adam in this video. In a welterweight fight. Mike Malott has a career record of 9-1 and 1 draw. In his UFC debut, he beat Mickey Gall by first round TKO. And in his last fight, he beat Johan Lainez by first round submission in his last fight. Well, Adam has a career record of 9-3. In his UFC debut, he lost to Michael Morales by third round TKO. And in his last fight, he beat Yusaku Kinoshita by first round TKO. So neither of these fighters have much UFC experience. But I'm going to pick Mike Malott by second round submission. Next we have the co-main event, which is going to be a really good fight, as Charles Oliveira will go on to face Beneil Dariush. This was a fight that was scheduled for last month during the last UFC pay-per-view, but Oliveira had to pull out due to injury, so they had to reschedule. So Charles Oliveira is a former champion. He is currently the number 1 ranked contender in the lightweight division, and he has the most submission wins in UFC history. In his last 3 fights, he beat Dustin Poirier by third round submission to defend his lightweight title. Then he beat Justin Gaethje by first round submission, which wasn't technically a title defense because Oliveira missed weight by like 0.3 pounds, so he had to vacate the title. It was a little controversial if you go back, because people were questioning if the scales were off during that weigh-in. And in Charles Oliveira's last fight, he technically lost the vacant title to Islam Makhachev by second round submission. And that's for Beneil Dariush. He has a career record of 22-4 with 1 draw. He is currently the 4th ranked lightweight fighter. In his last 3 fights, he beat Diego Ferreira by split decision. He then beat Tony Ferguson by unanimous decision. And in his last fight, he beat Matthias Gamrot by unanimous decision. And Dariush is currently on an 8-fight winning streak. This is most likely for the next title shot in the lightweight division. And being a big fan of both of these fighters, I'm a little sad because I don't want to see either of these fighters lose. But how Oliveira has emerged in the last couple of years, I'm gonna pick him by second round submission. Now we're at the main event, which will be Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana for the women's bantamweight title. Amanda Nunes is widely considered the greatest female fighter in the history of MMA. And she currently holds the bantamweight and the featherweight titles in the UFC. But the women's featherweight division in the UFC is not really that competitive, so Nunes doesn't usually fight in that division. And of course, Amanda Nunes is right now the number 1 ranked pound-for-pound woman in the UFC. In her last 3 fights, she beat Megan Anderson in the featherweight division by first round submission. She lost to Juliana Pena by second round submission. And in her last fight, she dominated Juliana Pena for a unanimous decision. Now, this fight was originally scheduled to be the trilogy between Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena. But Juliana Pena got injured, and Irene Aldana was put in as a replacement. For Aldana's last 3 fights, she lost to Holly Holm by unanimous decision. She beat Yana Santos by first round TKO. And in her last fight, she beat Macy Sharkazian by third round knockout. Now, Aldana has a chance in this fight, but I can't pick against Amanda Nunes. I'm predicting Nunes wins this fight by third round knockout. That's my thoughts on this card. This isn't the greatest card, so it's not as long a video. But yeah, let me know what you guys think.